Hey guys, welcome to the channel. I have a review I want to watch along with you guys. This is from The Outer Worlds 2 from IGN. I know IGN can be hit and miss at times when it comes to the reviews. Game I've been a big fan of the first one, so let's check it out.
If Star Trek is the optimistic dream of what humanity could become, The Outer Worlds 2 is the nihilistic nightmare of what it probably will be. Thankfully, both make for highly entertaining material to explore, and this second run through Obsidian's corporate dystopia is a significant step up from the original, with a story that's more grounded and interesting, significantly more competent combat, and an irresistible RPG grind. I had a blast putting my fist through the Kafkaesque final frontier alongside a cast of memorable companions.
Thus concludes a thoroughly distasteful business.
Even when a weak first act and some truly terrible enemy variety made the going less exciting. Across the more than 65 hours my completionist playthrough took, I fought with myself over moral dilemmas, giggled at absurd world building, and brought several would-be dictators to their knees. That's exactly what the for-profit space doctor ordered.
The Earth Directorate is here to fight.
Yeah, all of this women everywhere thing, it's just kind of like, haven't we gone past that already? Can we have like actual fun video games instead of everything being fucking politics? It's looking good, but still.
The Outer Worlds 2 is a good old-fashioned single-player open-world RPG in the same vein as Dragon Age, Fallout, and Avowed. As a follow-up to 2019's The Outer Worlds and a sorta kinda follow-up to 2010's Fallout New Vegas, Obsidian is at it again with a very similar blueprint here. It lays out a new dystopia to shoot your way through as you level up. Grab every piece of loot within reach and solve all the galaxy's long-standing problems in no time at all. It's not the most novel concept to be sure, but it's one I love that we simply don't get enough of, and it's pulled off better than the vast majority of recent attempts. This sequel returns to a wonderfully satirical alternate reality where unfettered capitalism has conquered the stars to turn majestic celestial bodies into tacky outdoor strip malls. Though it shares the same pessimistic vision for the future, it ditches the first game's halcyon system for a different part of the galaxy called Arcadia, with a fresh batch of planets for you to single-handedly decide the fate of. More prominent than the new planets to explore, though, is a distinct shift in tone. While there's still plenty of goofy jokes and ways to make your trek through corporate-owned space completely absurd, this sequel is much more interested in telling a grounded story, one that focuses squarely on the politics of Arcadia's various factions and repeatedly forces you to make judgment calls on which of these deeply flawed organizations is the lesser evil. That bet on more serious topics and the delicate balance of warring political entities is one that pays off, and I found myself genuinely torn by who to side with and even frustrated by my inability to appeal to the better angels of these selfish, power-hungry monsters, which is exactly what I look for in these kinds of make-your-mark-on-the-world games.
This war zone is not your playground.
Is it Sweet Baby? Did they actually get Sweet Baby? If you know, let me know in the comments, because this stinks of Sweet Baby. You know, that wokey piece of shit company that ruins games? It just stinks of that. Or just they did their own version of it. But it's a little bit too focused on that.
When The Outer Worlds 2 is putting the political jockeying front and center, it's sick as hell, and without question has some of the coolest world building and satisfyingly perilous moral dilemmas I've seen in some time. But it takes its sweet time getting there, mostly focusing on this conflict in its second half. For the first half of the story, you'll instead prioritize a humdrum revenge quest I cared about so little that I actually forgot it was even the first act's main focus by the time I reached the credits. In fairness, they do use this early time to introduce you to the principal movers and shakers in Arcadia while you seek vengeance, which sets it up for a much stronger second act. But the first 20 hours or so felt like the main story was quite slow and unengaging. It does rally if you can hang in there for a bit, but I wish it was more consistent throughout.
Much appreciated, Commander. Promise, I won't be making a habit of pulling skeletons out of my closet.
One area that is much more consistent is the absolutely gripping RPG climb, which sunk its teeth into me from moment one with a near constant stream of interesting choices about who my character was and how in the heck he was going to be able to save the galaxy. With only 2 skill points earned per level to spend across 12 skill cost. For example, if you tend to steal a lot, you might be offered the kleptomaniac flaw, which allows you to sell all your stolen goods for more money, but also makes your character steal things automatically from time to time, which can get you in quite a bit of trouble with the locals. Alternatively, if you skip through a lot of dialogue, you'll be offered the foot and mouth syndrome flaw, which gives you bonus XP, but forces you to choose all your dialogue options under a very short time limit.
Okay.
Made me want to rewatch Solo Leveling. Not only that, but there are a ton of ways to customize your weapons and armor with loads of mods you can buy and craft. Those do things like reduce your damage output overall to gain explosive rounds, or better protect yourself against a certain elemental effect, and this is without me going into some of the truly bonkers and unique options that I won't spoil here. They really do a lot more to make your rewards for exploring and completing quests more interesting, and befitting of the silly world around you, which makes all the difference in the world. The biggest letdown with combat is definitely the enemy variety, which usually features 2 or 3 types of wild animal on each world that you see way too much of for several hours at a time, alongside your standard humanoid enemies and a few robotic foes.
Okay.
Every quest on the map. I felt like I was always finding someone interesting to talk to, or some loot just out of reach for me to puzzle through. All of that usually made for a good time, apart from the previous justice on pretty much everyone you meet.
During our investigation, I gauged your trustworthiness and did not find it wanting.
While Inez, an entrepreneurial combat medic, is constantly reminding you of the virtues of the so-called free market enterprises she grew up with.
I put 2 and 2.
But once its story of political intrigue kicks in and the new flaws and perk system gets its claws in you, it can be quite hard to put down.
Review last year, a few other RPGs throughout. You've done a ton of reviews for IGN, but one review you did not do was The Outer Worlds 1. That was done by Dan Stapleton, who just recently retired from IGN. Rest in peace, Dan. We miss you already. But let's talk about that. What did you, just generally to give people a baseline, what did you think of the original Outer Worlds? What would you have scored it if you had to review it now? That sort of thing.
Yeah, I really liked the original
solid
Outer
8,
Worlds,
7,
but it
8.
did always feel to me like it was like a glimmer of what Obsidian could do if they had like a dedicated budget to a project like this. But the things I loved about the Outer Worlds were, I'm a big comedy guy. I don't think there's enough comedy
silly
games, and Outer Worlds tickles me in the right way.
Yeah, you reviewed Borderlands 4 recently as well.
Exactly, yeah. So it's very much up my alley, and the idea of like, what if the businesses and corporations conquered the stars and created this completely... I probably would have given the original Outer Worlds a 7.
Okay.
Probably. Yeah,
Yeah, I think
7,
Dan gave it
8,
an 8.5 back when, because that was back when we still had decimals at the time, which, if you haven't noticed, we got rid of 5 over almost 6 years ago at this point.
I only wrote 2 reviews for IGN that had decimals.
Wow.
So, yeah, 2 or 3.
If you could give it a decimal, what would you give it with a decimal?
Yeah, decimal, it's like a 7.7.
Okay, so high 7.
Probably.
High 7.
Yeah, it's a high 7.
Yeah.
Like, I would go back and
think
forth
it's an
between
8.
7 and 8, but like looking back on it now, I think it probably was a 7.
Sure, makes sense. So talking about the bite-sized nature of it, that's a good segue into one thing I wanted to ask. More meat on the bones, would you prefer this to be a Baldur's Gate 3 level 100+ hour thing if you could? Like, where do you want to see games fall, generally speaking? Obviously, it's, case by case, somewhat.
Yeah, well, for review purposes, I want them all to be 3 hours long. You see the end credits, so I think the treadmill, maybe if they made the level cap 40, I would have felt differently. It's kind of hard to say, but I think 50, 60 hours is a pretty good length, and it is substantially this effect. Like, he's a big meathead. You know exactly how he's going to react in every situation, and it's very funny to watch him just do that. Same with Morden in that game. And then I think the thing that elevates it is if they're caricatures at first, and then you can develop them and do a better job than something like Avowed, where like Avowed's problem was I loved the characters, and I felt like they were kind of just along for the ride. Romance option.
Chatting with us a little bit more about your taste, giving some background about the series as well, now that it's a series, which, who knows, maybe we'll see more.
Look at that.
If you want more from Travis, is the master of ukulele. If you want a different style of RPG, a little bloodier, we have a review of Vampire the Masquerade Blood.
Okay, anyway, what is it that they gave it? They didn't actually give it a number. There you go. Anyway, where... Did they actually give this thing a number, or just... They don't seem to give it a specific number. I think it looks pretty good. I mean, in general, it looks like a more refined, better, newer version of the original thing, which I really liked. You could tell that it was missing a little bit of budget, was missing a little bit of time, but it was pretty fun and very original. I haven't seen any mention in terms of the spaceships that you use and whatnot, if that even plays much of a role. Maybe you're just jumping from one planet to the other, which is okay, focusing mostly on the role-play aspect of the game. Black Isle, though, it's a legendary company, and if I had a lot more time, I would probably give it a nice shot. But it is what it is. Maybe I'll get it around to it, maybe I won't, but there you go. The Outer Worlds 2. Love the first one. Second one looks maybe even better.